See, you being as tall. See, I'm just a little run. So that'll work. So
Yeah, that's great.
yeah, that's great. That way I can talk to you, or should I look there sometimes?
You can talk to me, that's fine.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just going to say something quickly.
Sure.
Because often people say, how could you possibly do this all by yourself? And the truth is that I'm not doing it all by myself, because I am finding amazing people like this fellow here, Don Gardner, who is helping me figure out the best way to get across the mountains. And yeah, I'm honored that Don would spend some time with me.
No,
And
it's a pleasure, man, to help anybody with being in the bush and traveling. It's an honor for me.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I came across you because somebody said you had skied to Disneyland, or at least most of the way.
No, only part to Oregon, to the
Oregon.
Columbia, and I had a climbing accident then, but I'd skied from Calgary to Squamish. That was a little more successful, with some walking in between, but I'm not as pure as you. Like, I got in a couple of cars, like in Vernon. I thought, oh, I'm going to take a cab through Vernon. I don't want to walk through Vernon, so I took a cab to the outskirts. Anyway, so,
Fair enough.
So I've done some traveling in the bush and across mountains and so on.
Yeah. And I have done a little, but not nearly enough, so I need some help. And Dawn has just finished. What did you just finish telling me?
Well, Marcus and I just met, 2 days ago, and he was written up in the paper, and I thought, cool, he's going to do something around the world, and I'm into traveling not in deserts yet, or on the ocean, but in through the forest and mountain country, and in the high Arctic, like we've hauled sleds across out in Greenland, Ellesmere, and various places. But I thought, well, neat. And then you phoned up, and I thought, oh, I'll give him a help on technical questions of how to do that. But I have to say that this time of year is not the time of year to do this. Marcus is picking a timing that's between summer and winter, and the best time to do this is actually in March. But he sounds like he's patient and careful, and it's still just landscape. It's not a monster, but there are things like there'd be way more deadfall to crawl over, and some of the rivers won't be frozen. Like when I did my trip, it was in March, and so a lot of rivers were frozen. So, mind you, I had to wade some rivers and half swim them. And in March, it's warmer when you get down in the valleys, and the snowpack is settled. So you use quite a light long ski. It floats, doesn't necessarily turn, because you're going over passes, and you might get 1,000 feet of turns, but otherwise you got 800 or 900 kilometers of travel. So you pick for the travel.
Or I'm just going to be sinking through the snow.
Yeah, you'll be.
Or there will be no snow, in which case I won't be able to ski.
And part of the reality of going, it's getting warm in here, we've got fire going, so you see the true person.
Oh, I should do the same.
Yeah.
What a nice bed.
Well, yeah, but you're starting to get there.
Are you saying I'm starting to bald? It's true.
Man,
I have a lot of stress on a trip like this.
Yeah, I was like this at 25 because I was doing too much solo stuff in the winter climbs and stuff, and a lot of stress. So anyway, about the going from we're in Canmore right now, from here over towards the Pacific, say Vancouver, it sounds like is the goal. There's roads that you have to cross, and sometimes there's roads that there's a lake here and a road going along the side, and you end up in that valley, and there's huge steep avalanche slopes, and you end up walking along asphalt roads, which is really hard on the feet on ski boots. Just to show what there's a few other people who travel this. Well, there's lots of people who tour, but not people who go out and travel, I'll get to the point of why it's a bit unique what I do and occasionally others. We go without a tent or without a stove, and so your pack is much lighter, but you're a lot more vulnerable, say if a storm comes up. So you have to make sure you get over the passes into the trees, and you dig a snow hole, we'll talk about that later, under a tree, and you use a fire to warm yourself and cook your meals and cheer yourself up and dry clothing. Not when you're camping in a tent in winter, you have all sorts of problems. I call it with condensation and gas and carrying the stove and the gas, and you don't have radiant heat. And so if you can set up this living under a tree thing, which one of our friends says, oh, he lives like a rat when he's in the mountains. So you got to live like a rat, close to the ground, close to the trees, and know what you're doing with it. We'll talk about that in a second. But that's the kind of light boot. They haven't been used for a few years. I've been more track skiing lately, but just a lighter boot. But walking on asphalt.
That sort of looks like it's from the 1940s.
Yeah, it's actually, we did some high traverses, like from Jasper to Lake Louise with exactly that kind of boot, and we had to put crampons on them because, of course, it was in May, and so there was some pretty corn snow, icy conditions that you need steel edges with, and we didn't even have steel edges. It's not quite 1940, but we were using these kind of boots in the 1960s when we did some of our long traverses that have been much repeated in the last 40 or 50 years. So, so I'm here to cheer Marcus on however I can, and I talked very frankly I essentially said, you're crazy to go this time of year. It's against nature in a way. It's like traveling, when the timing's not right on the ocean. People who know about the ocean, but some people will travel when it's tougher, and so I think if he's careful and learns the tricks of living carefully on winter land, including river crossings, and just one of the trickiest things is just being stupid and falling when you're skiing downhill, or just fall off a log and get a spike in your rib and you're gone. That's that, and especially by yourself. Nowadays you have electronics. If you're still alive, you can beep yourself in. When I used to do this, I had nothing. Just if I didn't show up in Vernon after 10 days, they'd say, oh, where is he?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got to be really, really connected.
And I definitely use the electronics as a last resort.
Yeah.
It's not something I.
Well, if you had a broken leg,
yeah,
and you couldn't get out of there, you're gonna.
Yeah.
Please. So yeah. So we'll start with some of the techniques of how to live in the bush, mostly in the bush, because hopefully you time it so you get over the passes, down into, even if you just get into crumholes, just forest. You can build by taking a little saw along like this. Looks like nothing, but you get a piece of wood, you use your knife to get a piece of wood, and this you put through here and around here, but you make it crooked, so, and tie it here, so it makes a bow saw.
Okay.
Okay.
And that doesn't bend the blade? How do you prevent it from bending the blade? No? Okay.
No.
Because the pressure is on that side.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
what you do is split this, so it's split, holds it like that, and then goes through it into this hole.
Gotcha.
So, and then it'll be green, so you'll have to find or trim it down a bit, so that you can just tie it here.
And a little bit thinner than that side of the wood?
Yeah. And just split it so it fits like that, and then just tie it on like that. Okay. That's how that saw works. You put that one end through here and bow the piece of wood around here, so it's similar to, you know, a Swede saw or a cutting saw. So you cut some green timber. I know we don't want to do that, but you've got some green trees like this and lay them on the snow like this, a few layers like that, and then you build your fire on there so the fire doesn't go 10 feet down. Say if you're, you know, way up in just small trees.
Yeah.
But what you'll aim for is to get over into where there's mature spruce are the best. Once you get to the west coast, you're mostly in cedar and hemlock and so on, and so you don't get a real tree well, a hole around the bottom of the tree, but in the spruce, which is most of the way. You get in there, look for big spruce trees. Sometimes you'll find two that have fallen together, and there'll be, you know, you might be on, this time of year you might only be on 6 feet of snow here, but there'll be only 2 feet of snow underneath it. And then you take your little, your handy dandy snow shovel and shovel it out as much as you can and make sure there's no roots and rocks and stuff that once you get it melted off, you're going to try and lie on those. I had that in my pack one time when I came out for the road in Seattle, and somebody with their you know, fancy 4-wheel drive was stuck, and I said, "Oh, I'll dig you out." And I had this little 25-pound pack, and they said, "No way!" And I pulled this out and I dug him out, and it was winter. So you find a tree that's hopefully like this, at the very least like that, and has the branches coming down, like spruce trees have branches coming down. Pines usually have them going a bit up. If you're in pine forest, don't try and sleep there because they don't have many branches on them and the wind blows right through them. Whereas if you're in a dense, mature spruce forest, you don't get much wind even if it's blowing fairly hard. Mm-hmm. If it's howling, you'll get wind, and so you'll have a little bit of a tarp with you in case you get pouring rain, and you just huddle under that. And you'll need that on the west coast. There are a few times when I just thought, okay, I'm on this little ledge under this tree and just put up this about, I think it'd be 3 or 4 by 7 feet tarp, which is very little weight. That's the trick, is to get the weight down so you can really ski, like down to 25 pounds. Mm-hmm. What's that, 10 kilos, 10 or 11 kilos. So that you can really, you know, move so that when the going's good, you can get 30, 40, 50 kilometers. That's the aim, the speed. Yeah. You might find a river or a snowmobile track. Now that's a even though we don't like to hear snowmobiles too much, nothing against motors sometimes.
I'll use their track.
Yeah, you'll use their tracks, but not their gas.
No.
So you've got to stay light, so that's why it's so fussy with, you know, not taking a full saw and all that. So you'll get your shovel out and shovel out around the tree, or in whatever combination of a rock and a tree. You'll shovel it out and start a fire at the mouth of this shoveled out area. It might be, you might only shovel out 3 or 4 feet by 5 feet, but get a fire started here. You're sort of almost in danger of burning yourself. Yeah. Get a little fire going there, and the way you get that, take some fire starter along with you in case it's blowing. But once you get used to it, you get the twigs off spruce trees, break the small ones off the ends of the branches, the dead branches, of course. You create a bunch of those so that they're like this. Maybe there'd be 50 of them sticking out, and you just get down close to the ground, have it kind of vertical like this, and even just with a match, hold the match under there, and it'll catch one of the little branches, and gradually you'll have a, when you're on your game, you'll have, you know, quite a flame right away, and you just get that down and pile on more wood quite quickly. And if you have wind or wet wood, you'll have a fire starter of some sort of wax. Some people carry cardboard saturated with paraffin, but I'm sure they make it commercially. Yeah. So you get a fire going and get it really blazing, and you haven't. one of the other efficiencies of this is you don't take, like traditionally we used to take off our wet clothes because you've been sweating like mad, especially your back from the pack. You don't take those clothes off and put on dry clothes. You do have extra clothes in your pack, but you just dress down so that, and keep track of your heartbeat so that you're keeping your body moving and kind of warm just from moving, but you're not plowing and sweating. And so your body is gradually going, the temperature is going down, but you're working and there's a fire going there, and this gradually dries you out. And you can go from soaking wet from a rainstorm to being dry in like half an hour. And once this fire gets going, it starts melting out of quite a large area. By the morning, it'll be quite melted out by radiation. And you'll be sitting under here on your foamy or your Thinsulite or Thermarest or whatever you have. You've got to take something like that. You don't want to be just on your sleeping bag.
Yeah.
And then the additional thing with the fire is to use this little, again, this handy little saw. You go looking for dry timber that's about that size, 10 centimeters, 5 centimeters. There'll be standing dead, or you might find some leaning up, and you saw them into lengths about this much, and saw maybe 15 of them, and pile them up. Say if the fire's there, you pile them up, one on top of each other, up to maybe 5 or 6 high, then another pile here, and maybe 3 layers of them, and have the fire in front of them, and it gradually starts to burn up the side of these logs. And this means that you don't have to be constantly getting up and going and breaking little branches and throwing them on, because once you leave your little habitation area, you're up to your knees or your neck in snow. You have to put your skis on and your pants on and everything. Otherwise, you can be sitting with this radiation, and if you're out of the wind, you'd be down just to your ski pants in a shirt, just like this, without it. And so this having these logs piled there, they just gradually burn up, and so it's like a big radiator, and then they gradually burn through, and the ends of the logs, the unburned ends, they fall into the fire and feed the fire. And I used to sort of say, okay, I'll organize it and see if I don't have to move. It's just automatic.
It's a daily challenge to see how long you could let
how
the
long
fire
I
go.
can go without having to move things around to keep it burning. And there were some nights I never had to touch it; just kept falling in. So that's.
Would you wake up in the middle of the night some days to restoke the fire?
No, never,
No.
never.
Once you're asleep,
Once you're asleep, might as well just. And you've got a good enough sleeping bag, like you're not up on in a howling wind. If you do get caught up above tree line, of course it's not so nice, but dig a trench and get yourself down out of the wind and use your tarp over top of you. And I've spent a few nights like that. It's not very comfortable, and you're kind of eating dry things because you don't have a stove. So yeah. So this way you got rid of the stove and the fuel, and you've got this radiation, and the radiation that goes over towards where you're sleeping and sitting area will melt all the snow that you haven't shoveled off. It'll melt it all off. You'll be up down on moss, and it's really very, very comfortable. Yeah.
Great. So tell me about turning skis into snowshoes.
Well, this is in a real emergency. I've only had to do this a few times. So you've got your ski, and it's going to be the central structure of the snowshoe. And you've got to have a hunting knife of some sort, maybe a little bit bigger than this, so you can really do some damage. I used to think maybe protection from cougars, but I don't know about that. Anyway,
to use it.
so anyway, these are just examples. These are going to be used for other things. You cut willow is best, but if you're up in spruce country and there's no willow around, you use spruce branches, but they're kind of crooked, but they still will work.
Yeah.
And you put them on the ski, so duct tape these, and you put them underneath like that. And so you duct tape those to the skis, and you duct tape the other end to the skis. Okay, and then you spread it apart with one of these, and then you put a number of these, shorter of course, in here, and you have to gouge this out, this wood out, so it will fit there, and then duct tape it. Or the other way is to probably, now that I'm thinking about it, it would be better to actually cross it like that.
Yeah.
Be better weight bearing, and duct tape that, and have this over here. And same thing, duct tape that, and so you've got a few of these along, plus these like that, and it doesn't look like much, you know. You got,
but it's the difference.
But and you've got a few more cross pieces.
Yeah.
And these could be long. You know, you could use it almost the whole length of the ski.
Yeah.
But it gives you flotation where, not that you're going to ski. If you try and slide, it'll wreck it.
Yeah.
You're just, if you're on a thin crust of snow that's on this, you're just breaking through to your waist. This, in one place I was on, I just couldn't get up this canyon. It was very dangerous. I had to get out of there, and so there was lots of willow, and so I whipped this up, and so I sort of snuck out of there like I'm creeping away,
Yeah.
and it didn't break through at all. So, so that's changing your. This is old school snowshoes, sort of adapting skis to be a snowshoe, a functional snowshoe. So it might be handy to make a few pairs of those before you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ripping my pants.
Putting on some weights.
Food.
I have a bit of a theory about this kind of traveling versus, say, if you're in the Himalayas, which I've only been a couple of times, but or on long expeditions. You're doing a series of short between towns. Maybe some days it'll only be 3 days if you got good traveling.
Yeah.
So if you got stormed in and so on, you might need 5 days of food. So you don't need to pack like some people pack, you know, breakfast, lunch, dinner. You sort of stoke up when you're in a town, maybe take a day off, but at least have a big dinner and a big breakfast.
Yeah.
And I used to just take soup mixes. Those were my dinner. I just eat a whole one of those.
Okay.
And sometimes we took Logan bread, which is a type of kind of energy bread for breakfast.
Like heavy and fat. And
no fat on it, but butter on it.
Yeah.
Thick butter. Yeah. It's nice to have the butter. And for lunch, you know, a bit of sausage, a bit of granola, you know, just some gorp, but no sandwiches and all this sort of stuff. Just sort of going light. But you're pretty light anyway, so you don't have a lot to burn.
Well, I feel like I burn quite a bit, though. I don't know.
Yeah, you don't want to come out of this, you know, out of which I did. I came out of this with ketosis, the smelling as if you actually smell your burning muscle.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my father was a doctor, and when we came back from one longer trip, a 5-week sled trip on Ellesmere Island, we came back and we'd been in civilization for a week, and he says, "You're stinking. You're still starving. Let me see." And I just skin and bones, and that's very dangerous because you're weak and you don't make right judgments and so on. So
I will not starve.
Yeah, but you want to go light.
Yeah.
So
that's the trick.
And also this BC crossing. You know, you're crossing across the grain of the land, so you're hitting a highway every 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
Sometimes, unless you're following the range.
Yeah.
And so you'll be near a gas station or
a lodge.
Or a lodge. Yeah, there's lots of lodges on the way. A lot more than when I was there. So yeah. So maybe you can stock up there.
Yeah. From Engadine to Nipika is going to be one of the longest sections, and that's.
Oh, it's not far.
No.
No, let's see. I think I did that in but it was in spring conditions, like a day and a half or something. Yeah.
The snow is definitely going to be the deciding factor.
Yeah. You know, you might get out there and just say, you know what, I might as well be skiing on the rocks, because the snow has had. We haven't had any big Chinooks, and this big snow just fell in the last week or two, and so just watching it outside the window, it's settled like that much, but it needs to settle that much and get some more on top of it. But you'll figure it out.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah, great. Okay.
So apart from doing it at the wrong time of the year, if you could give me one more tip, or one general tip about traveling in winter.
Well, there's the technical tips, but there's more the sort of the patience to not push, not be really patient in areas where you think, oh, it's just 50 feet, 50 meters across this slope, but it looks kind of iffy. The patience that says, don't cross this slope right now, wait till tomorrow morning when it's a little colder, it's maybe frozen overnight, might be a little more stable. We've done that, or I've done that a number of times on big trips where you're saying, oh, we'll soon be down to a big forest, and you're in little trees here, and you say, no, it's only 50 feet, but it just feels wrong. So patience. And if a river crossing doesn't look right, look for another crossing, or just
pay attention to the instinct.
Yeah, and back off and say, maybe I have to come back to this section 2 weeks from now. Things might freeze up better.
I'll have to go back to Canmore and find a girlfriend.
Yeah, or a job.
Or a job.
Yeah.
I guess both would work.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Congratulations.
Well, thanks, Dan.
So far you've already done quite a trip from Toronto, so that was probably almost as dangerous as this, but this is newer territory, riding a bike along the road and paddling. And
I had to deal with a lot of more potential for human danger, and this time it's really more a natural environment that's and myself and somewhat, but I feel much more comfortable with myself as opposed to random people falling asleep on the road.
Oh, yeah.